Well, good morning, everybody. Here we are at the Moot House once again, looking at the life of Jacob. We'll get started here. We're on. So, let's just get started. I've got on here the first slide, and this, again, I've said this many times, but just for way of reference, the yellow means where we are going to be today. And clear down here at the bottom is where we're going to finish. And we've gone all this way here. This is the first half of life, Jacob's second half of life. I've divided it into that. We're going to look at this text. You can't read it, but it gives you an idea. We're almost there. And we won't be looking at the grayed out areas, because the grayed out areas represent the bigger story of which there is no Jacob action, so we're not going to be looking at those sections. But gee, we're getting pretty close. Now, when we get to chapter 49 and we look at the blessings, we'll probably spend some time there. I don't know how much time, but we're getting down to the wire here, whatever the wire might be. So,
yeah.
And we're looking at right now. We're in this section called the snapshots. You know, we've changed. We're looking at selected texts. Now Jacob is well into his years. He's back. He's back in the promised land, and then of course the Joseph narrative is taking over, and Jacob is part of a larger story. Yeah.
Are you blocking the view for some people or not?
I don't know. I don't know.
See
This
you
is
guys
new. This is new today. So
Okay. Right,
I'll try to. If I am blocking the view from you guys, just let me know. We're trying something different here. So would somebody, the text is up on the screen, but this snapshot number 3, here is the text, Genesis 45, 25 through 28. Would somebody, I know you've got your Bibles out, would somebody read the text?
Then they went up out of Egypt and came to the land of Canaan to Jacob their father. And they told him, saying, Joseph is still alive, and he is governor over all the land of Egypt. And Jacob's heart stood still, because he did not believe them. But when they told him all the words which Joseph had said to them, and when they saw the carts which Joseph had sent to carry him, the spirit of Jacob their father revived. And Israel said, It is enough. Joseph my son is still alive. I will go and see him before I die.
Okay, thank you, Gene, for reading that. That's the selected text this morning. We're going to look at this as a snapshot, and like I've been doing in weeks past, I've created a picture for you, an image that we'll be looking at that depicts this scene. And this scene is an exciting scene. This is the long-lost son. The news comes to Dad that, no, he's not dead, he's alive. And the journey back and the report and the initial breaking of the news to Dad is what we're looking at here this morning. When I read this text, I found it strangely familiar. I could identify with Jacob in this text. When the news was broken, Jacob's first response was rejection. And it got me to thinking, I'm like that it's harder for me to receive good news than it is to receive bad news. I naturally absorb bad news. I've just come over the years, I'm better at it. But hearing good news, I can relate to his response. No way. They tell the story, Jacob is alive. He's alive. No way is what I get from Jacob's initial response. So, because Jacob had that experience, and I could familiarly identify with that experience, which I think probably you guys can too, I went online and I looked, do they have a name for this condition? And so I found this on the internet, and it's called negativity bias. And it just so happens, I read a few articles, one of which out of Psychology Today, and that's what they call it. There's a term, and I got this quote that says, your brain and my brain is simply built with a greater sensitivity to unpleasant news. The bias is so automatic that it can be detected at the earliest stage of the brain's information processing. And I got that out of an article. I couldn't locate the date, the issue, but it is out of Psychology Today. But there is actually a term for this, negativity bias. Our brains receive negative information much easier, naturally, than positive information. Think about that. So, snapshot 3, we're going to start building this snapshot, and what I'm calling this is, I've named this thing. I'm going to name this, rather than negativity bias, I'm going to call it the Velcro Teflon effect. How we naturally see is illustrated by Jacob and a closed door. That when good news comes to us, we treat it much like a closed door. You've heard closed door, open door. And because we have seen the backside of that door for years and years, our categories are hardened. And when we hear through the hearing of the ear new news, it just bounces back. And I call it Velcro Teflon because the idea is that if it's good news, if it's bad news or good news, this is in relation to bad news or good news. Good news tends to stick like Velcro. In other words, our brains are wired so that bad news will capture it and it sticks.
Bad news sticks.
Bad news sticks. Did I say that?
Yeah, before you said that.
Okay, we'll edit that out. Bad news sticks like Velcro. Good news slips off like Teflon. That's what I call it, the Velcro Teflon effect. Do you see that? Bad news, Velcro. Good news, Teflon.
That's a survival issue.
I think it is.
Good news. That's good news. Bad
Yeah.
news. I gotta gear up and protect myself.
Yeah, the evolution, the discussion on a much larger scale is that we were evolved over history. And now realize we have a different framework of understanding. We believe there's a creator. But the idea that it was built became part of our nature because of that the survival instinct. Yes. But whether it is or not, we have a different belief system. But it is the natural state is that it's so common. Yesterday at work, my coworker Doug, who's in charge of our service contracts and so forth, he received news from one of our customers that actually had kind of got lost in our database, and he was calling to apologize, and they were upset. He got bad news, and the first thing, and he's got so much good news, but how many times of bad news does it take? You can have good news, good report, good news, and then all of a sudden we get a negative response, and it goes south. I mean, we take that home with us at night. Isn't that not true?
Well, in my teaching, you teach a little kid,
Yeah.
or even a teenager, anybody. And you're telling them very positive comments, not fake, but good.
Yeah.
And then you use the word but. Everything disappears.
Everything disappears. Yeah.
They only focus on
Yeah.
now what.
Yeah.
But it's really, and it's all expectations playing to. I mean, as we politically heave back and forth, a conservative will look at anything Obama did as bad news. If it's good news, they wouldn't hear. And a progressive would look at anything Trump does as bad news, and if it's good news, you won't hear it. So in a sense, we pre-selected.
Yeah.
Our expectations drive it.
Yeah, and that is the ramification of the whole thing, is that we hear, but we may not be hearing what is really being said.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that all of us have had relationships where no matter what's reported, it's negative. It's negative. I mean, half glass empty, half glass full?
Yeah.
Well, there's some physiological evidence to it. And so what can break us out? You know, what breaks us out of that? Well, Jacob got broken out of it, and what was it? So that's the next slide. And here we go. Here's my second, and this is the full snapshot. I was only giving you half the snapshot before. But the snapshot here, and I'm calling the wagon, when he saw the wagon, he heard the news as they were convincing him, more of the same, but it was, in my opinion, the seeing of the wagon that turned the tide to now allow him to receive the positive report. And you know, we're empathizing with Jacob. He let it go years ago that his son had died. It's very obvious. I mean, I understand this, why he couldn't receive it. Very understandable.
Well, the brothers had some splaining to do.
Can you imagine their trip home? What are we going to tell Dad? Boy, that whole story in itself is just a wonderful, the story of Joseph, a wonderful story. But anyway, I drew this here. Here's the wagon, and here's now the open door. And somehow he was able to switch and now to receive, not to let the Teflon. He was able to Velcro the good news. And I'm proposing to you guys that I'm calling it a grace vehicle. The wagon is a vehicle. You could call it a divine intervention, divine juncture. But I'm attaching the word vehicle for a reason, because the wagon's a vehicle. We're going to talk about the wagon just a little bit more in the next slide. But now the tides have turned, and now Jacob is looking. The door has somehow mysteriously opened, which I think is grace. And he saw the wagon, and the wagon now causes him to see differently, and it gives him the most wonderful gift of faith, of hope, a hope of which we all desperately need, a hope, something to cling to, something to drive me to another step. And he says, it is what it, or what's the last phrase, Gene? He says, it is true, or my son is alive. I will go see him before I die.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it wasn't it is what it is. But what does the text read, Gene?
It is enough. Joseph, my son, is still alive.
Yeah.
I will go and see him before I die.
Isn't that cool? Oh man, from no way to he sees the wagon, and his faith leaps, his heart leaps, and he says, it is enough. My son is alive. I will go see. Oh, that's beautiful. That's what we need. That's what we. And in the economy of God, through faith in Christ, it's the opportunity we have. That's the gift that's been given us. And so I want to look at now this idea of a grace vehicle. A grace vehicle. What is grace? Grace is a gift. Grace is a gift. And a gift that takes us somewhere. A grace vehicle. That's my term. So, here we go. What is true about this wagon? There it is. This wagon, and I'm putting it in the context of Jacob. The wagon is not from here. This is Jacob reflecting on this. This wagon, those boys did not leave with this wagon. This wagon looks different. This is not from these parts. So the wagon is not from here. And guys, I'm going to be moving in and out of the immediate context in our context, okay? Because we're going to learn something from this wagon. This wagon is not from here. So therefore, This wagon points to something else. It points to another place. Okay, if we could just grasp that. I think all of us have had grace moments in our lives where this isn't from these parts. And because it's not from these parts, it's pointing to something else. It's pointing to another place. Do you know what I'm talking about? That moment where just circumstances work out and all of a sudden it seems like the darkness of the bleakest moment, and then all of a sudden the light comes on. And the peace that surpasses understanding, or a word spoken, or a phone call made, a phone call received, and you're just thinking, that's God. That's a God moment. All of us have had that. And they're wonderful grace moments, because in the economy of God that we believe in, God is the God of all of the world, but yet God is the God of Jacob. And God is the God of you and I. And there's an interaction that can take place that's wonderful and that can fill our soul with hope. You look like you've got something you want to say.
No, I assume the other thing.
I know your look.
I assume this wagon is also a better wagon than I've ever seen.
It's an import.
It's not just different, it's better. This is a top brass wagon.
Go talk a little bit more about that.
Well, I mean, if the wagon can't pick you up with something far lower, inferior than what you had, you may not want to go to the place it looks like it came from.
No.
This wagon is like, I want to get in that wagon.
Yeah, okay, that's true. And yes, and it's truly recognizable, it's not from these parts, and there is something inviting about that wagon.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, so the next one is the wagon is designed to carry me to that place. There, look at there, I got the seat right there. That's where Jacob's going to sit. And somehow we know that this wagon is designed to carry me. It's going to take me someplace new, someplace different. It's trying to get me out of my current circumstance, and I'm going to some place where my heart is leading me in hope that someplace different, someplace better, someplace new. This is cool.
I like it.
All I need to do is climb in. All I need to do is get in the wagon. I don't have to work. I don't have to try harder. I don't have to do some sort of activity to work up a sweat to make this happen. All I have to do is to receive, which means climb in the wagon, let go, and allow the wagon to take me to where the wagon is designed to go. Now, is that a neat picture of everything, of what we struggle with? I mean, the world in which we live, our experience, and the promise that we have through Christ. All I need to do is climb in. Yes.
I get another picture, which is sort of, it's the same, but it's Peter jumping out of the boat. Because he saw the wagon as Jesus on the shore. And he just, he got out of the boat, and there was a fire, and Jesus showed him that, another grace thing.
Yeah.
Then he had to tell Peter to forget all the past.
Yeah.
It's all new Peter. But in Peter's case, he jumped out of the boat.
Yeah.
There's a book written, you can't walk on water if you don't get out of the boat.
That's good. I think the challenges that we have throughout life is the willingness to get into the wagon. Go ahead.
But the wagon's fit for him. I mean, when Joseph sent the wagon back, Joseph said, here's what Dad needs. I mean, it's just not a cool wagon. It's like, this is what I need. I fit this wagon. That's because I'm fit. My duck is fit right on the seat there.
Yeah.
It's for me.
It's for me.
Yeah.
And what age has done with us is given us a few gifts here. We're better at learning how to recognize when the wagons come.
Wait a minute.
You know, we're a little more in tune. They're always there. The wagons are there. We believe in a God who cares, who's there, who's there and intervening in these grace moments with these grace junctures, providing these grace vehicles to take us somewhere else. And I think I would like to say we're getting better at it. Just and then once we recognize it, and for what it is, it's designed to take me somewhere else. There is a fear factor, and I think also that as we age, it becomes hopefully easier to let go of the fears and to trust and to get into that wagon and allow it to take us. And it's scary. It's still scary. It's inviting, but yet it's scary. But if we can just crawl in and let the wagon take us to where it's going to go. Like Abraham said, he got up and he left Haran to a land that he had not seen before. That's the journey of faith.
But Jesus said, "Come unto me, all you that are heavy laden." I mean, he's our wagon. He's always inviting us by grace, by his grace, to get on his shoulders, take the yoke.
Yeah.
Those pictures all fit this.
Yeah.
He's got to totally reassess his concept of what truth is.
Jacob.
Yeah. Truth has been what my 11 sons have been telling me for 20 years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Truth is now something else, and that was a lie. That's hard to kind of have to reassess.
And I think Bill, I'd like to say every man in this room knows what you're talking about. We all of us, to be at this stage in life, have had to assess what truth is. We've had to come up face to face with some real hard things. And can we let go and can we trust? So the question then, guys, where are you? Your turn. In the snapshot, actually here's the snapshot here. Oh no, this is the snapshot because I wanted to show closed door, open door. Wanted to show all aspects here. And you can't see all of it, but where are you? Where are you? What part of this snapshot can you most identify with? We're looking at snapshot. This is snapshot number 3. Can I most identify Jacob as closed door, and can I identify with the idea that when good news is brought to me, I immediately dismiss it, and when the Velcro what was it? Teflon, the Velcro Teflon effect. Can I most identify with that? Well, probably the answer is yes. And or do I know this? Do I know this, and to what degree? And where has this been true in my life, where somehow the door mysteriously opens? And of course, the question is, did I open the door or did God open the door? But that's a deeper theological question here. We're not going to get into that. The door mysteriously opens, and we see the wagon. And the wagon message coming back to us is hope, to give us hope for the hope to take another step, to get into the wagon and to allow it to go. So what can you most relate to? And then I thought of a New Testament. I thought of a New Testament truth. You've cited the story of Peter, and I chose Ephesians 1:13 and 14, and it reads, "In Him, Christ, you believers, after listening to the message of truth, the gospel of your salvation, having also believed that, embraced that, you were sealed in Him with the Holy Spirit of promise." And here's verse 14. "Who is given as a pledge," and I'm tying that word pledge to the wagon. "Who is given to you as a pledge." You guys know the term, you've heard it probably 100 times, arabon, In Greek, it means engagement ring. The pledge that we've all, through God's marvelous grace through Christ, have been given a pledge, something of material value, something of real substance and significance. It's a pledge that more is to come. In a sense, a wagon that if we just hop in, we'll allow that to take us to where the wagon is designed to go. And I'm not specifically saying heaven here, although heaven does relate, but it's the next step in this journey we call life. That if we allow ourselves to let go, it's amazing what God can do around us, in and through us, if we let go. And I think that's it. That's it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a good week.